Hello everyone, this is John and welcome to my channel to study English. Today I'm going to take up a lesson from Flamingo, the second chapter, Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood. So friends, we are going to study Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood written by Ernest Jung. So let's begin with the author Ernest Jung. She was born in 1964, a place called Rourkela in India. She spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. She received her education and did her graduation in Hyderabad. And then she went to United States of America for her higher education. Ernest Jung belongs to an aristocratic family of poets, and being a daughter of parents who were both writers, she began her career as a writer in India, and she has been an editor and columnist for major newspapers in India and as well as in abroad. She also authored several books. One of her books, titled Unveiling India, which she had written in 1987, is considered to be one of the most famous or noted work. And the said book, Unveiling India, was a detailed chronicle of the lives of women in India. She was also moved by the plight of the deprived children in the society, especially in the context of India. The following story, or the story which we are going to read, itself is an excerpt from her book titled Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood, where she describes about the poverty and about the exploitations of children. Now let's discuss about the title or justifications of the title. The title Lost Spring has a tinge of irony. It is said that spring is the best season of a year, which is being full of colors, fragrance and freshness. It is also believed that a spring season or the spring season is a season of renewal and growth. And the childhood of a human life is often linked to spring, as it marks the beginning of human life and also has a tremendous scope of growth. Childhood is full of joy, pleasure and play. Children anywhere in the world are a source of great joy, but ironically, millions of children like Sahib and Mukesh experience no spring in their lives, for their childhood is consumed in making a living. They act maturely and started working in different like places like factories and others. Education, play and pleasure are not for them to enjoy, because they must work to support themselves and their families. Thus, the title brings out the depravity of child labor. Now let's see what exactly is the story all about. In the story, Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood, the author exposed a national shamed children cleaning floors and tables in shanty restaurants, making locks, slates and fireworks, rolling beddis, weaving saris and carpets, packing and hauling loads in factories and stone quarries. Uh, the author, with her trademark sensitivity and insight, she analyzes the grinding poverty and tradition sanctified by caste and religion, which condemn these children to a life of exploitation. The chapter Lost Spring is also a fascinating and revelatory description of the lives of poverty stricken children in India. It escapes from being a dry report about child labor because of its evaluative language. It is about children coming to cities to work as rag pickers or cleaners or servers at the tea stall or helping at furnaces where they are exposed to hell hazards. The story is divided into two parts. The first part, titled as Sometimes I Find a Rupee in the Garbage, the story of Sahib-e-Alam. So, this is the first part of the story. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. We can see that it begins with a conversation, or we can say the author encountered the boy called Sahib. Let's see what exactly it is, and I'll be giving you only the explanation. Every morning, the writer sees a young rag picker boy who visits the garbage dump near her house or in her neighborhood in search of gold, or the writer or the author says scrounging for gold in the garbage dump. Ironically, or because although the garbage dump is full of useless, thrown away things, still the boy he shuffles it so minutely or carefully as if he will get something as precious as gold from the garbage. Okay, the boy's name is Sahib. We already know that. His home is in Dhaka, Bangladesh. It was in the middle of lush green fields. They had left it many years ago, and he does not remember it anymore. His mother had told him that there were many storms which destroyed their homes and fields, so they left home and shifted to cities in search of gold. The writer says again, looking for gold in the big city. Gold here refers to something precious, okay, to something precious which was not available in their hometown. For children, garbage or rag pickings is something like finding shoes, monies, bags, and some other useful things or helpful things. And for their parents, rag picking is food, clothing, shelter, and it is a means of survival to them. The boy searches for these precious things in the garbage dump, and what happened is that one day the writer or the author questioned Sahib and asked him the reason why shuffling through the garbage, why he was looking for the garbage. Sahib replied to the writer that he has nothing else to do other than rag picking. The writer suggests that he should go to school, and all of a sudden, immediately she realizes that her advice is meaningless for the poor boy Sahib. In return, the boy or Sahib replied that there are no schools in the area or in the neighborhood where he lives. He also assures the author that he would go to school when one is built up, or when one school is being built up in in his neighborhood. The writer asked him jokingly that if she opened a school, would he attend it? Sahib says that he would join the writer's schools, and after a few days he runs up to her to ask whether her school is ready. The writer replied that it takes a lot of time to build a school, and at the moment she felt ashamed of herself because she felt ashamed at making a false promise. She had said this as a joke and had never intended to open a school. So she felt ashamed of herself. Sahib was not hurt because he was used to such false promises as they existed in large numbers in his empty world. He was surrounded by such false promises made by everyone around him. His world was empty as no promise made to Sahib was ever fulfilled. The writer had known Sahib for a few months, and when she asked him his name, he replied as if he was making an announcement that his name was Sahib-e-Alam, and the writer thought that the boy did not know the meaning of his name, and if he came to know that his name meant Lord of the Universe, he would not be able to believe it, or he would surely laughed at his name because his name was opposite to his life. He went around the streets with a group of friends, and it was like an army of boys who did not wear any footwear. They appear in the morning like the morning birds and disappeared at noon. The writer could recognize all of them as he had been seeing them for the past few months. The writer asked one of them that why he was not wearing any footwear. The boy simply said or replied that his mother did not get them down from the shelf. As they were beyond his reach, he did not wear them, or he did not wear any footwear. Another boy who was wearing a different shoe in each foot or in each of his foot said that even if his mother would have given him the footwear, he would throw it away. He meant to say that the boy was not wearing footwear because he did not wanted to wear it. Again, the writer asked the second boy the reason why, or the reason for wearing a different shoe in each foot. He did not reply and shuffled his feet and as if he tried to hide the shoes. The third boy spoke that he was eager to get a pair of shoes as he had never owned a single pair of shoes in his whole life. The writer takes the example of the shoes to highlight the conditions of these boys, and the boys search the garbage dump looking for such precious things. And the author further tells us that as she traveled across the country, she had seen many children walking barefoot in the cities as well as in the village. The reason that they were barefoot was not due to the lack of money to buy footwear, but being footwear was a tradition for them. The writer couldn't understand, or she wondered and concluded that the reason of it being a tradition was a mere excuse. It was mainly to hide the fact that they were so poor that they could not afford footwear. Here in the beginning of this page, the writer narrates or remembered a story told to her by a man from Udupi. Friends, Udupi is a town in Karnataka, remember it? There it says that a man, when he was young, or when he was a young boy, he would walk to his school. On the way, he would cross a temple where his father worked as a priest. He would stop at the temple and pray to God to bless him with a pair of shoes. After 30 years, the writer visited the place, visited the town and the temple, and now the place was nearly empty. It's completely changed. the new priest lived. The new priest is living in the backyard of the temple, and there she saw plastic chairs in red and white color were kept, and a young boy came running. He was wearing gray colored school uniform, socks and shoes, okay, and he had a school bag hung on his shoulder, and he threw it on the bed and ran away. Basically, the writer wants to say that the financial position of the priests at the temple had improved over the last 30 years. They have changed, a lot. The lifestyle has been changed a lot in the last 30 years, and now he could afford shoes for these children. And also, the author was reminded of another boy who got a pair of shoes, and he prayed to goddess or to the goddess that he may never lose the shoes that he had got. The goddess had granted his prayer, as the boy never lost his footwear. This shows us that the underprivileged people valued anything that they get because they have been longing for it. Okay, and also the writers or the author describes the area where these rag picker boys lived. Okay, the Sahib and his friends and his family. Okay, she describes the area where these people lived. They lived in a place called Simapuri, which is located on the outskirts of Delhi. Delhi was, Delhi, a capital city of India or a capital city of the country. Simapuri, even though very close in physically very close to the capital city of the country, but still it is like in the living lifestyle or in that standard way, it is still very far away from the capital states. In 1971, when these rag pickers had migrated from Bangladesh, the area had been a wasteland. Okay, Simapuri was still a wasteland, but now it is not empty anymore, as almost 10,000 rag pickers lived there. They lived in structures, or they live in a house made up of mud, with roofs made up of thin sheets or of tin or plastic materials called tarpaulin. There was no sewages, drainage, or running water facilities in Simapuri. They lived in unhygienic conditions, and it was a piece of wasteland where the garbage of the city was collected. These people had started living there illegally. The rag picker had been living illegally in Simapuri for the last 30 years now, and they have occupied the area without government permission or ownership. And what crucial thing happened is that the politicians of the area have provided them ration cards and voter ID cards. They got groceries for their family through these ration cards, and in return they cast their votes in favor of the politicians who had helped them. The writer asked a group of women who were wearing torn saris they did, why they leave their homes in Dhaka. They replied that if they were able to satisfy their hunger of their families and sleep well at night, they were happy to live in Simapuri, than their fields in the car, which were ruined and gave them no food. And also, these people traveled in search of food, and where they found it, they set up temporary homes and started living there. Their children kept on growing there, and gradually they also started helping their parents in seeking means of survival. For those who lived in Simapuri, the means of survival was rag picking. As they had been doing it for many years, they became trained at rag picking, and they did it well. For the rag pickers, the garbage was a precious like that of gold. These families, or they searched the garbage dumps and got things which they sold to fund their food or to fund their living. They gathered torn or damaged sheets which were used to cover the roof of their homes. These did not cover them well, but still provided them with some protection. Like one of the most important thing is, for children, the garbage dump were more than a means of survival. So Sahib was happy to say that sometimes he found a rupee and even a 10 rupee note in the dump or garbage. As one often finds even a silver coin in the garbage dump, he kept on searching, hoping to find more. For the children, the garbage dump was a means of fulfilling their dreams, although partially, while for their parents it was a means of aiding survival by providing the basics, foods, clothing, and shelter. One winter morning, the writer saw Sahib standing at the fence of a club. He was watching a tennis game being played by two young men. Sahib liked the game but could not play it. He told the writer that he went inside the club when it would be closed. He was allowed to take swings by the guard there. The writer saw that Sahib was also wearing tennis shoes. They did not look appropriate with his dress, which was worn out and had faded. He told the writer in an attempt to satisfy or justify himself that someone gave him the shoes. She, however, figured out that he had got them from a garbage dump. They must have been thrown away by a boy from a rich family, as he did not want to wear them anymore. Probably they had a hole or two in them, due to which he did not want to wear them. On the contrary, Sahib was not bothered by this fact and had no problem wearing them, as he could not afford anything better than that. He walked barefoot, and to wear a shoe even with a hole was like a dream come true. Although due to the garbage dump, Sahib's dream of wearing shoes had been partially fulfilled, but his desire to play tennis would never be fulfilled. One morning, the writer met Sahib, who was on his way back to Millboot. He was holding a steel container. He told her that he had got a job at the nearby tea stall. He would earn 800 rupees a month and get meals too. The writer asked him if he liked the job, as she could see that he had lost the carefree look. As of now, Sahib is working for someone else and was carrying his master's container or canister, which seems to be very heavy. even though it was empty, which shows that he was burdened with responsibility. Earlier, as a rag picker, Sahib would carry his own bag, which seems to be very light, and which shows that he was his own master. Now he is no longer his own master. He had to follow the instruction of his master. That's all the first part of the story. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage, the story of Sahib-e-Alam. And now this one, or this slide, is the second part of the story. I want to drive a car, the story of Mukesh, which we would learn or study in the next video. I hope you all understand well the first part of the story and benefit it from this video. And I would request you to study once again so that you understand better. And thank you so much for listening patiently. And that's all for today. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you. Bye bye.